Peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be upon you. The pyramids of Giza are among the most incredible structures ever created by human hands. For centuries, they have fascinated historians, engineers, scientists, and researchers from all around the world. And among all the pyramids, one structure continues to stand out more than any other: the Great Pyramid. Just think about it for a second. A massive monument consisting of roughly 2.3 million stone blocks. Some of these stones weigh several tons, while others are so enormous that moving them even today would require heavy machinery. On top of that, the pyramid originally rose to a height of nearly 150 meters. I know that many people aren't fans of numbers, but these figures are truly mind-blowing. How did an ancient civilization, living thousands of years ago, manage to build such a gigantic structure with such astonishing accuracy? And perhaps the most mysterious question of all, how were those enormous stones fitted together so perfectly without cement, modern adhesives, steel supports, cranes, or any of the technology we rely on today? When you really think about it, there seem to be only two possibilities. Either the ancient Egyptians possessed knowledge and techniques that we still don't fully understand, or they discovered an incredibly simple construction method that modern people rarely consider. A solution so simple that it never crosses most people's minds. Welcome, I'm Amr Abdeen, and in today's Midnight Questions episode, we're going to explore one of history's greatest mysteries. How were the pyramids actually built? Before we begin, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications so you never miss a future episode. Now, when discussing the construction of the pyramids, you'll quickly discover that there are countless theories. Some are supported by evidence, some remain controversial, and others are so unusual that they sound like science fiction. For example, one of the most famous theories claims that extraterrestrials were responsible for building the pyramids. Yes, aliens. As strange as that idea sounds, millions of people genuinely believe it. Supporters of this theory argue that the pyramids are simply too advanced for an ancient civilization to have built on its own. They point to the precision of the construction, the enormous size of the stones, and the incredible alignment of the structure. But despite its popularity, there's a major problem. There is absolutely no concrete evidence proving that aliens had anything to do with the pyramids. The theory remains speculation and nothing more. Another popular idea suggests that the ancient Egyptians were giants with extraordinary physical strength. According to this story, they were far larger than ordinary humans and could easily move gigantic stones without difficulty. Some people even imagine them as towering figures similar to the giants seen in fantasy stories and movies. But archaeology tells a very different story. The mummies and skeletal remains discovered throughout Egypt show that the ancient Egyptians were completely normal human beings. Their average height was similar to many populations around the world. They weren't giants. They weren't superhuman. And they certainly weren't lifting multi-ton stones with their bare hands. So if aliens didn't build the pyramids and the Egyptians weren't giants, what really happened? The explanation most of us grew up hearing is relatively straightforward. According to the traditional theory, workers cut enormous stone blocks from quarries, transported them across long distances, and dragged them using wooden sleds. Large teams of laborers would pull the sleds with ropes while moving the stones toward the construction site. Large teams of laborers would pull the sleds with ropes while moving the stones toward the construction site. Sand, making it easier to move heavy loads. This discovery helped explain how workers might have transported massive stones more efficiently. But even if this theory successfully explains transportation, it still leaves us with another major mystery. How were the stones lifted? Moving a stone across flat ground is one thing. Raising it dozens of meters into the air is something completely different. Today, we use cranes, hydraulic systems, and powerful machinery to perform such tasks. The ancient Egyptians had none of these tools. So how did they manage it? Some people have proposed all kinds of unusual explanations. Others suggest sophisticated engineering methods that have yet to be fully understood. But regardless of the theory, one question continues to remain unanswered. How were those enormous blocks positioned so precisely at such incredible heights? And that's not the only mystery. Perhaps even more surprising is the accuracy of the stonework itself. When researchers examine the pyramid closely, they noticed something extraordinary. Many of the blocks fit together with remarkable precision. Key angles are incredibly accurate, and in some places, the gaps between stones are so small that it seems almost impossible to achieve with primitive tools alone. Imagine shaping millions of stone blocks by hand. Not hundreds, not thousands, millions. The amount of labor required would be almost unimaginable. This is one of the reasons the pyramids continue to fascinate researchers to this day. Almost every theory manages to answer some questions while creating new ones. And that's where things become truly interesting. Because what if we've been looking at the entire problem from the wrong perspective? What if the massive stone blocks weren't transported and shaped in the way most people imagine? What if many of them were actually created exactly where they now stand? The surfaces are surprisingly smooth. That's where another controversial theory enters the picture. According to several researchers, the ancient Egyptians may have discovered a method for producing artificial stone. Instead of cutting gigantic blocks from distant quarries and hauling them across the landscape, they may have created a special mixture using locally available materials. This mixture could then be poured into molds much like modern concrete. Once the material hardened, it would resemble natural stone in both appearance and strength. If this theory were true, it would solve many of the problems that have puzzled researchers for decades. There would be no need to transport millions of heavy blocks across long distances. There would be no need to carve every stone with extreme precision, and raising construction materials to higher levels would become significantly easier. Rather than lifting finished blocks weighing several tons, workers could simply transport smaller quantities of raw material and pour them into molds directly at the construction site. Suddenly, many of the engineering challenges become far less complicated. The theory gained attention when researchers studying certain ancient stones discovered unusual characteristics that didn't completely match what they expected from natural rock. Some tests suggested the presence of features that led scientists to wonder whether at least some of the blocks might have been manufactured rather than carved. This possibility inspired further investigation. Eventually, researchers attempted to recreate similar stone-like materials using various mixtures. Several experiments produced promising results. Artificial blocks resembling natural stone were successfully created. Of course, this does not prove that the ancient Egyptians definitely used such a method. The debate remains open. Many archaeologists continue to support traditional quarrying and transportation theories. And with that, we've reached the end of today's question. How were the pyramids built? The truth is that despite decades of research, discoveries, and countless theories, no one can say with absolute certainty exactly how every part of the Great Pyramid was constructed. Some explanations seem convincing. Others raise even more questions. But one thing is certain. The ancient Egyptians achieved something extraordinary. Something so impressive that thousands of years later, the world is still trying to uncover its secrets. And perhaps that's what makes the pyramids one of the greatest wonders in human history. As always, if there's a question that keeps you awake late at night and you can't stop thinking about it, leave it in the comments below and it might become the topic of a future episode. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and share it with your friends. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our upcoming videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace be upon you.